What's up, guys? It is me here, Max, back again with hopefully another great political video, brand new. And today we're going to take a little look at the final, or at least semi final, primary results from 5 states. And in Oregon, we have the incumbent senator from the Democratic Party run wide and win re election. It probably won't be that much of a close race, so it really doesn't make too much sense digging deep into the Republican primary. But Joe Ray Perkins won narrowly. I mean, it's not finalist yet, but she's probably going to win. And if you look at where the votes are coming in that are still left, they're coming in from areas that she won big. Now, the race in Oregon that might be a little bit more interesting because it has historically been much more competitive is the governor's election. That one's usually within less than 10 points. And as of right now, the incumbent Democratic governor, who's incapable to run again due to term limit laws, is not really popular. And therefore, that would be a great opportunity for Republicans to pick up. And as it looks like, as of right now, their nominee is going to be Christine Drazen, heading against Tina Kotek. Drazen is, as far as I'm concerned, the leader of the minority group in the Oregon House of Representatives, obviously, since the Republicans don't have a majority in Oregon. And she might be able to get this race to be very close. And as far as I've heard, polling also shows it to be fairly within reach. And we've already seen in Virginia that there are cases in which Republicans can win in blue states on the governor's level. I mean, you see lots of Democrats win in red states on the governor's level as well, such as Kentucky. However, Oregon has been one of those states where Republicans have always been close, but never been able to get over the finish line when it comes to gubernatorial races. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out this time. However, Drazan got most of her support from the rural areas of Oregon. Therefore, I'd conclude that she's probably less of a rhino and more of a Trump wing Republican, though I don't think she's going to actively campaign with Trump's endorsement. That would probably hurt her in a liberal state like Oregon, especially one that is so progressive. I mean, just look at the Antifa mobs. Well, anyway, now let's move on to the House of Representatives, and there's one particular race that I'd like to look into. It looks like Kurt Schroeder in the 5th District is about to probably lose renomination. He has historically always been one of the most conservative Democrats and voted against Biden's infrastructure bill, I believe. Or at least he voted against the $2,000 stimulus checks. Yep, he actually voted against advancing the vote on that issue. And yeah, he is one of the most conservative Democrats in the House, and he's up in what is Oregon's most competitive district. And if he's being replaced by a far left individual, what Jamie McLeod Skinner definitely is, there's a pretty big chance this district is going to flip by a significant amount. And for the Republicans, no matter whom they put up, if they run an efficient campaign, and if it is going to be as much of a red leaning year as we all expect it to be, this district has been virtually guaranteed to flip last night. Now, let's go back. Let's go to Idaho. Now, in Idaho, not too many interesting things happened. The Republican Senator Mike Crapo won re-election despite Donald Trump endorsing his opponent. Brad Little also won renomination, though it was much more of a close race. His opponent got as much as a third of the vote. The Democrat candidate was uncontested, but he ain't gonna win. It's Idaho that we're talking about. The really interesting race is the Attorney General primary, where the incumbent Republican was actually knocked out by Raul Labrador, who is more of an America First and Trumpian candidate than the current incumbent Lawrence Wasden. Lawrence Wasden just he just lost. So that's the first big Republican incumbent that was defeated last night. In Kentucky, nothing real big happened. Charles Booker won the primary there. He's very much a far left individual, and he's never going to win with Rand Paul. Rand Paul won by like 15 points in 2016. However, by now he's gained much more traction with the Republican base. And even though Kentucky is not really a libertarian state, Rand Paul is going to win, especially in a red wave year. North Carolina basically had the results well expected. Cherry Baisley, she won the Democratic nomination, and she is a North Carolina Supreme Court justice on the North Carolina Supreme Court, and now she's a Democratic Senate candidate. Well, that shows you how unbiased our judges really are. No wonder nobody trusts our judicial system anymore. Everybody in every court, regardless of political affiliation, always tries to make the decisions that best fit their narratives rather than making the decisions that best fit the law. Well, anyway, she's going to be up against Ted Budd, who is a congressman from North Carolina with a very solid conservative record. Pat McCrory, who lost against Bud, by the way, is a former Republican governor of North Carolina. Former, not because he retired, but because he lost re-election. The Republicans did well nominating Bud because Pat McCrory, nah, he wouldn't have won. Mark Walker would have been a great candidate, though. Perhaps even better than Ted Budd. Because he actually has ties to the civil rights movement, and yeah, well, whatever. He didn't make it, and I wish him the best, to be honest. And yeah, we have Don Davis here. By the way, I would have endorsed Mark Walker. I know I used to flirt with Ted Budd in the past, but now I'm all on board with Walker, even though it's way too late. Now, in the U.S. House, there's no race that's overwhelmingly interesting, except for the one where Madison Cawthorn actually lost against Chuck Edwards. Now, I've clarified the facts around the runoff system in North Carolina. You get a runoff if both candidates fall below 30 points, but that happened in none of these races, so there won't be a runoff. And Madison Cawthorn will be out of Congress before his political career even really took off. He's always had a cringe record in the past, but as of recently, he's exposed himself as apparently homosexual or bisexual. It is not up to me to determine whether that type of behavior is good or bad. Everybody can do what they want. However, in a conservative district in North Carolina, it is not a smart thing to do, especially since North Carolina is very much a value state. Yeah, you really shouldn't be doing that if you want to get reelected. It's just, if you're gay in North Carolina, you're not in Congress, at least rural North Carolina. Well, whatever, Madison Cawthorn's out, and it looks like probably Ted Budd will be the next North Carolina senator. In the great state of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman overwhelmingly won the primary. His opponent, Connor Lamb, couldn't even do well in the Pittsburgh area, and that's literally his congressional district. I really don't know what happened. At least Beaver County was close, but that won't make a huge difference. The Republican Senate primary is very interesting, though, because we have three candidates who, heading into election night, had pretty good ambitions at winning. Kathy Barnett is kind of the most right wing candidate in this race. However, Donald Trump has endorsed Dr. Mehmet Oz, mostly because they're strong personal friends. However, he has not necessarily the most conservative record if we look at his past. So a lot of people who are very Trumpian supported Dave McCormick simply because he run lots of Dr. Oz attack ads. Dave McCormick, however, is even more liberal than Dr. Oz, making this whole race be a huge, incoherent mess. So Dr. Oz, Trump endorsed, not really conservative. Dave McCormick, even less conservative, but attacked Oz heavily, therefore did well in the rural areas. And Kathy Barnett, heavy right wing Republican hawk, fairly unknown though. However, it'd also be possible that Barnett and Oz split the more conservative vote amongst each other and the more liberal Republicans overwhelmingly voted for McCormick. Everything's possible. But anyway, it looks like, as of right now, Oz is ahead, and where the votes are still coming in the Philadelphia area and Pittsburgh, I think they'll be favoring Oz around Philadelphia and they'll be favoring McCormick around Pittsburgh. We'll really have to wait and see. But this is definitely one of the most exciting races. I think, though, that Oz will have the best chances of beating Fetterman in the general election. He might not be the best candidate, but he is a TV personality, and that's going to help a lot. And for the governor, Doug Mastriano, the Trump endorsed far right candidate, easily won. The incumbent Attorney General of Pennsylvania won for the Democrats. And again, I'd say Dr. Oz, former TV personality, has the best chances at winning. For the other primaries, lieutenant governor, there are a couple of very unknown candidates, and most of these candidates did well in the areas that they came from, except for the winners. They usually tended to do well everywhere. And also, John Fetterman, who's going to be on the ticket on the ballot for the Democrat U.S. Senate candidate, is currently the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. It is one of the very few states that determines lieutenant governor's nominee based on primaries. In most states, the governor just gets to pick their running mate. However, not in Pennsylvania. That'd actually be a very interesting system for presidential elections if there was a presidential and a vice presidential primary. Who would have thought about that? Might actually be a good idea. Well, anyway, none of these Pennsylvania House races really had very interesting outcomes. I believe there were a lot of retirements, so there'll be a lot of new Congress people come next January, no matter what happens. And I think this would be it for now. Those were all the important informations that you have to know as of right now. But all in all, I'd like to say it was a semi-exciting night. The most exciting thing, though, will be to know who will end up being the Republican Senate nominee for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is perhaps the biggest swing state of the nation. It didn't always used to be like that. It used to be a Democrat-leaning state. George W. Bush famously always tried to get Pennsylvania. John McCain always tried, please, please, I want to have Pennsylvania so bad. None of them was able to get it. Then out of nowhere, Donald Trump flipped it in 2016. Then it went Democrat. It's one of the closest states in the entire country. To make things short, I'd like to say Pennsylvania will be the bellwether of this election once again. And the Republican Party so far has had multiple candidates. Originally, I believe it was a guy named, what was this dude's name again? Sean Parnell, who was ahead in the polls and Trump endorsed, and a far right candidate, or at least more right of a right wing candidate. Then he withdrew his candidacy due to some private issues that included his wife divorcing him and accusing him of assault. Well, they always throw a lot of stuff at people when there's a divorce trial. I don't believe he actually assaulted her, but that's besides the point. The Republicans also right now have a very, very tight Senate race where the winner might be disputed for a few weeks while the Democrats already got their guy. So, if I'm being honest, Pennsylvania will be close because even though it's going to be a red wave year, the Democrats have done very well so far preparing themselves for this race, while there has been a lot of issues with the Republicans. Well, that's been it so far, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If it was informative and you liked it, please leave a like and comment down below. If you didn't, leave a shitty comment. I'm always open for good advice. Have a good day, and Max out. See you later.